You're listening to the IB4E Coaching Podcast.
Brought to you by IB4E Coaching, business coaching for executives, entrepreneurs, and small business professionals. Learn more at ib4e-coaching.com. Hey, Coach Harlan here. Welcome back to the podcast. Hope you guys are having an exceptional week. I'm having a great week, and I'm excited to introduce you to my guest today. Please help me welcome Corey Harlock. Corey Harlock is the founder and principal of KeyHire Solutions, a small business talent strategy and acquisition consulting firm. KeyHire helps elevate owners' businesses from where they are to where they want to be. Quickly and intimately learning needs, talent gaps, and constraints allow roles to be defined, leading to recruiting and hiring highly qualified professionals who hit the ground running. Client businesses advance through proprietary key owner stages, accelerating effectiveness, efficiency, and profitability. KeyHire does all the hard work, delivering growth-supporting results in a fraction of the time. Corey, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you. Pleasure to be here.
We'll see after I ask you some of these questions, because a lot of questions. I love what you guys do. All you guys do according to your website and your bio, you do all the hard work delivering growth supporting results in a fraction of the time. That's got to be music to the ears of business owners, because this is always a struggle. As a business coach, a lot of my clients, when I ask them what are they struggling with, if it's not their time and it's not money, it's their team, attracting, hiring, onboarding, retaining these great employees. Is it something that they're not doing, like before the hiring process or during the hiring process or after, maybe during the onboarding process? Are they doing something wrong?
Not intentionally. My belief is that small business owners are the hardest working people out there, and they are trying to do the best job they can. They want to run a great business, and they have the weight of the world on their shoulders. They have people that work for them with mouths to feed and mortgages and rent to pay, and they wear all that. And I think because of that, they're generally want to move fast, especially when it comes to filling talent needs, right? So they're always thinking like, my belief is they think if I can just make that one great hire, my life will be better. And they put so much expectation on that one person coming in, and they usually haven't done the groundwork to make sure it's the right person. Then they heap a ton of expectation on them, and it quickly falls apart. Or it's a friend of a friend who seems like a great person, and they come in and initially they do some good things, but we haven't identified the actual role we need them to fill and the skill set and experience they need to bring. And the big one they always forget is capacity. Where are they coming from? Can they bring anything to our business beyond today? And that's often a big one. So I don't think it's, man, I hate to paint a business owner or a small business owner and say you're doing something wrong. I think, well, the analogy, I think I've shared this with you, is I'm a horrible golfer, but I've hit thousands of golf balls.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I'm qualified to be a golf pro. It means I've hit thousands of golf balls wrong. And business owners don't start their business because they love to hire folks. They start it because they have a passion, and then they get to do all this crappy work on the other side that is administrative and hiring, all this stuff they hate. And just because you've been doing it for 6 months, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, doesn't mean you're good at it. It could mean you've been doing it. You haven't been putting the probabilities in your favor, and you've been doing it the best you can, but there's a better way to do it.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. And like I said, I think that's one of the biggest questions is, these owners, business owners think, what am I doing wrong? What am I not doing? Right. And our first instinct is because growing up, if you didn't do well in school, you were told to work harder. Right. If you didn't make it in sports, try harder. And they immediately think, well, I just need to just keep banging my head against this wall. Eventually,
Yeah.
it'll work.
Yeah.
There's got to be an
I
easier
think
way.
I think that's well stated, Harlan.
Yeah. All right. I want to take a quick break. I want to talk about all this stuff. I want to go deeper into what are they doing, or what could they do better? What are they, maybe you can't do what you don't know. So what
Right.
is it that they don't know? And maybe we can help them understand that a little bit more. A lot of big questions. But before we get started, I have some fun questions, some icebreaker questions I like to ask each one of my guests. Um, Listeners know these are the questions made famous on the TV show Inside the Actor Studio, where the host James Lipton asks these same questions of his Hollywood guests from TV, film, stage. And I figured if they're good enough for the Hollywood elite, they're certainly good enough for my guests. So, Corey, if you're ready, 10 questions for you, sir. Question number one: what is your favorite word?
I've been thinking about that, and I think it's either dad or
Uh,
if my wife calls, says, "Hey, love." I think those are
uh,
they're probably tied for the top.
nice. Okay. What is your least favorite word?
No.
My dog doesn't like that one either. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think she thinks
yeah.
that's her
Especially when
name.
my
No.
kids say it, drives me a little
Yes.
crazy.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. All right. What turns you on?
Good music, live
Mm,
music,
nice. What turns you off?
bad music, live music that's really bad.
Yeah.
Um,
I've
yeah,
heard some of that.
or being in company of people that you're really aware you're not aligning with, and you
Okay.
kind of are pretending to have to hang out with them to make it all work together, and
Yeah.
it doesn't just you're not able to be yourself and it doesn't flow.
Yeah. I'm with you. Okay. Good job. Um, what sound or noise do you love?
My kids laughing is always a good one. I know that's a common one, but also like I'm gonna go back to music, but like a really good riff from an old rock and roll song you haven't heard in a while. That's always kind of cool to hear when you're like, oh, that's a good song.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You run over and turn the music up. Turn it up.
Exactly. You tell everyone to be quiet.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. All right. What sound or noise do you hate?
Screaming. People screaming. Oh, drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Not babies
Um,
screaming, but like kids,
yeah, yeah,
older
that's
kids screaming for the sake of screaming.
noise for the sake of noise.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't like
that's well
that.
said.
All right. Question 7. What is your favorite curse word?
The F bomb or a mother effer, something like that. Yeah.
All right. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Musician, hockey player. That'd be awesome. I'm way too old to be playing
A
hockey.
musician, hockey player. Awesome.
I know, or there's an or in the middle there. I
Okay.
think that
Okay.
would be,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Hockey is long gone, but yeah, being a musician would be pretty cool, I think.
Nice. Good job. All right. What profession would you not like to do?
Teacher. Those
Hmm.
people are wired a very special way, and I ain't wired that way, Harlan. I don't know
And
how
they're
they do it.
not paid nearly enough.
Not even
Absolutely.
close.
Not even
I
close.
agree 100%.
All right. And the final question: if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Man, I think that's too big to comprehend. I mean, I hope he just says, you got in, barely. I don't know how you're
Squeaked
in. I
in.
don't know how you did
Yep.
it, but you're in.
Hey. No, that's urine is good. I mean, anything short of
Yeah,
that might be
that's
problematic,
what
but
I
yeah,
mean.
yeah,
It'll be close.
yeah.
It'll be in the gray area, I'm sure.
Like like jumping through the elevator sideways
Yeah,
just to get
exactly.
in, right?
Yeah. Now, Harlan, I have to tell you, I used to love Inside the Actors Studio, and I always watch that in your head. You always play it back and go, "Man, if I had to answer those questions, I would love to
Yeah.
be able to do that." So you just made one of my small little wishes come true. Thank you.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
It's
Love
great.
it.
It's a good idea.
Thanks. All right. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how you got your start, how you got to where you are now, how you help your clients and who your clients are, and some of the things you've done to be able to help them. And then at some point, we transition into courage and leadership. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Listeners, we'll be talking about all that and more right after this. So stick with us. And I'm back with my guest, Corey Harlock. Corey, thanks again for being a guest on the podcast. I've been looking forward to this challenge. I mean, this conversation specifically because I have a lot of clients. I work with a lot of skilled trades, so commercial, residential contractors, electricians,
Yeah.
plumbers, HVAC. They all struggle with hiring, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's talent out there. Most of the good talent is already working. You've got some mediocre talent, and then you've got the helpers. And sometimes they need these really top qualified people, and it's just hard to find them. But I think they sabotage themselves because they don't have the consistency of the ads that they place to hire. They don't have the consistency of the interview process. It's random. It's whoever decides to sit in and ask the questions. They don't ask the same questions. They don't ask the same questions consistently. There's really no onboarding process. It's like, hey, you work with Bob, and Bob will show you what you need to know. And Bob's clueless, right? Because he was taught by this other guy who doesn't. It just seems like this comes together into like the perfect storm.
Yeah. 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 You've touched on a good one there with trades, especially. I mean, there's such a glut of that, and it's it's a it's a money war. People will leave, especially if they're hourly, 5, $10 over here, and you want to get them back, you got to pay more. And
Yeah.
um, there is a better way to do it, and there's a way to make it more uh, consistent in your own business. But that's I've worked with people like in the security in the fire field and in construction, and finding good people is hard because there's just not enough of them, right? So you're always competing with everyone else for the good people.
Right. All right. So let's start from the beginning. You have a slight accent, so I take it you're not from Texas.
Texas? No, I'm not. I haven't got my draw yet. Um,
It'll come.
yeah, I know. I'm hoping. I'm hoping. Yeah, I'm a Canadian, originally from the Toronto area, moved to the Calgary area, then moved down here in 2014. As I say, I will be speaking Canadian for the entire interview, Harlan.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That is fine. Um, so you started out in talent acquisition, right?
That
Is
was
that
my
kind of where
second
you're?
life. My first life was hospitality. And
Ah,
then
okay.
I got, you age out of hospitality. It's a young person's game, and
Hmm.
it takes its toll on you. So I transitioned out and got into agency. Agency recruiting was where I went from after hospitality way back in jumping. That would have been 2010, 2011, something like that.
Okay. Interesting. And so what was it about the hiring recruiting process that made you sit up and think, this is broken and I will fix it? How did that
Yeah.
happen?
Um, for me, it was working in an agency. They have a place, but it wasn't for me. And it's agencies are very transactional, and coming from
Hmm.
operations, like I ran some pretty big operations, and working with clients, because it's so transactional, and that's just the expectation. It's most businesses, or a lot of businesses, are like, man, we can't do this ourselves. We're going to have to hire an agency. They're never excited. Everyone's always like, yeah, we get to work with an agency again, right? So you're
Right.
automatically going in. It's going to be a little standoffish, and that's what I didn't like. And I worked with a lot of my clients, and in my head, I thought, I know I can do better for you. I know I can give you more and help you more. But I wasn't in a position to build that trust with them because they were already upset that they had to pay a huge fee, and there were just
Right.
perceptions everywhere, right? So um, I got in my brain somehow, I'm an entrepreneur. I wanted to work with entrepreneurs, and I wanted to provide a service for them that was different and helpful and meaningful and necessary. Uh, a lot of a lot of people in the talent space open their business to deal with the big players because that's where the money is. And no one, I saw a real clear gap. There weren't a lot of people opening businesses saying, "Hey, we want to help small business owners." for whatever
Mm.
reason. Maybe they thought it wasn't, you weren't able to make money there, or it wasn't equitable, or it was too hard to work with. But
They don't hire as many employees as some of the bigger companies. Some of the bigger companies hire 50 people a
sure,
day,
yeah,
right?
the volume might not be there.
Yeah.
I never thought of it like that, but that's a great way to put it, right? Yeah, that's definitely one of the factors in it. So I I made a commitment to find a model that was fair and equitable for both sides, and that would be a benefit to small businesses, and that's how KeyHire was born.
Nice. Yeah, because the country runs on small businesses. I'm
100%.
sure Canada is the same way. Those that's the bulk of um, the job market. Is the
Yeah.
small, mid-sized businesses and stuff.
Yep.
Um, and like I said, I work with a lot of small, mid-sized companies, a lot of different companies, but I've been working lately with a lot of the skilled trades. They struggle with this all the time. And I am a firm believer that we create our own monsters. Either what we do or what we don't do kind of creates the environment that we're forced to live in and stuff. I I'm trying to figure out though, is it the advertisements that aren't working for them? Is that where they stumble, or they don't know what they don't know? Is it the interview process, the actual hiring process, the onboarding, which is almost non-existent in a lot of companies? Where do you see most of the struggle when companies come to you? What have they tried that they're you could see this is one
Right.
of the main reasons things aren't working?
So you everything you talked about is a factor. The three biggest mistakes that small business owners make when they hire is, number one, they don't clearly define their needs. So
Mm,
they see a problem in the business today, but they don't look beyond that. So they are hiring someone to solve an immediate problem.
got it. Yes. Yep.
So once it's solved, what do we do with you? Number two is they don't have a defined hiring process, and candidate experience is the number one factor in someone taking your
Mm,
job.
okay.
Um, and number three is they hire for current needs, not future needs.
Yeah.
So they hire that person that I talked about before. They don't clearly define the role. They say, we have a problem today. They hire them because they can fix that problem, but they can't do anything else. And then once that problem's fixed, not only are they not valuable in the business as it is currently, but they're actually become a constraint to it moving forward and growing.
Mm, wow. Yeah, and I've seen all of that. Like I said, the immediate problem, they're concerned right now. We need somebody that has X skill. They find somebody with that X skill and they use them, and then it's like,
Now
I
what?
don't know. Yeah.
Or you're like, okay, you're done that. Now we need you to do this other stuff, but they don't bring any experience. They don't have a tool belt. They only brought a hammer to the party, and now you're asking them to go, use a screwdriver, and they're like, I don't have that tool in my tool belt, right? And so
Right.
now you get, as an owner, stop me if you've heard this. I hired this person for the first 3 months; they were great. Now I don't know what happened, but they're just not performing like they used to, and that could
Yeah.
be one of a few things. A,
Mm,
they're done what you hired them to do and they don't have any more experience for your business. Or B, when they came in, they had the capacity they brought to the business was great to that point, and now the business has grown, but they only know how to go this far,
right.
and they can't bridge the gap because you hired for your current business needs versus saying, one of our sayings in our business is, we don't hire people to run your $10 million a year business. We hire people to run your $30 million a year business, currently doing 10. And
Right.
if I could give one piece of advice to your business owners out there when they're hiring, remember that. And that will change the whole
Yeah.
frame by which you view the people you're hiring.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm counseling people who are looking to change careers. It's like dress for the job you want, not the
Yeah.
job you have, right?
Yeah.
Prepare yourself for that job that you want to go into. So the same type thing. That makes total sense. Um, and then the candidate experience.
Yeah.
How has that changed over the years, and especially after COVID and things like that, where
Sure.
trying to get people to hire in and actually come back to an office and stuff? How has that candidate experience changed?
There's a whole bunch of info I have on this, but I'll try to keep it succinct. So right now, people are laying off, and everyone thinks that there's a lot of people out there looking for work. The unemployment rate's 4.2%.
Hmm.
That's 10 years ago, that would mean we were in a boom. You know what I
Right.
mean? As soon as you get below 3%, I believe you're into the unemployable rate, meaning those people that don't have jobs they can't really hold a job
Unemployable.
or for
Yeah.
whatever reason, right? So
Yeah.
how have things changed? We have transitioned from a tell me why we should hire you to a let me tell you why you should want to work here.
Okay.
You are always competing.
Yeah.
If you are interested in a candidate, I can promise you at least one other business is too. And a
Yeah.
good rule of thumb is whoever's first with the offer and offers the most money usually wins.
Hmm.
And just to give that's a hard thing to say, but let me kind of give some color to it. If you're putting through someone you're through the candidate experience is a sales process. It's a sales and marketing exercise. And so when I work with my clients, I do all of the preliminary stuff. I don't want them involved. I get to know their business and I bring the people along. We call it target engage hire. So I target
Okay.
the specific people and I start engaging with them on behalf of the client, right? KeyHire doesn't go into the market. KeyHire representing our client. We go in as we are Harlan Hammock Co. Right?
Okay.
So we're able to tell your story. I don't care to tell my story. I want to tell your story. So we start engaging with them and creating a conversation, a very respectful conversation. And so by the time we get them in the door to my clients and we get them on site, if we're going to have them there for 2 hours or 3 hours, I'm very clear with my clients that the first, we've already interviewed. No one, when they're on site, should be asking this question. So tell me about yourself. Tell me why
Right.
you want to work here. Because the answer is, I don't want to work here. You're a small business. I didn't even know who you were 5 days ago. Corey got in
Yeah.
touch with me and told me all about you, and I'm interested, right? You're not
Yeah.
Google. People aren't lined up at the front door. So we bring them in, and if there are any questions, amber flags, follow-up questions we get them out of the way. The second half of that interview is a sales mission. Now we are
Okay.
selling 100% and we're giving them tours and we're emphasizing the good points about working here and when you're working here. Um, the candidate experiences, this is how powerful it is. Say you were a small tech startup, no one heard of you, and I am Google. And there's a candidate out there who has always dreamed of working with Google.
Right.
And they apply and I bring them in and I'm like, yeah, whatever, kid. Here you go. Yep. I'll get back to you. We'll let you know. You interview them and you put them through this incredible candidate experience where you're valuing their time. Every time they speak with you, it's different, it's engaging. They're getting to meet you as the owner on your terms, and it's a conversation. And then we really sell them and say, hey, look at all these cool things you get to do here. And then we say, we're going to get back to you in the next 48 hours, and we get back to them the next day. That candidate experience has like 70% of people in that situation who have dreamed of working for one company and have a bad
Yeah.
experience and have never heard of a company and have a great experience. 70% of those people will go to the company who gave them the better candidate experience.
Wow.
That's the power of candidate experience.
And it's not always about money,
Nope.
right? I know a
But
lot of people think
money's a
we just need
thing.
to throw money at them, but that's not the one thing that wins them over, is it?
It's a factor, especially now because people know they're in demand. So
Right.
the old, I know if you take a pay cut to come work with us, trust me, I'll make it worth your while. That doesn't hold any water anymore.
All right.
Um, you can get people to take a lateral move. but it's got to be conditioned. Maybe they're in office role and you're offering them hybrid, and they say,
Okay.
I'll take a lateral move because I'll save money on tolls and on gas and on parking. So that's actually a
Right.
win for me, and I'll be at home more. But if it's apples to apples, the job, and you're trying to get them from company A to join your company, there's got to be an incentive for them to do that. And people move for a couple of reasons. They move for more money, they move for a progression in title, for more responsibility, for impact, influence on a business. So these are all considerations. And this is a whole other conversation. So tell me how deep you want to get into it, but how do you craft that offer to make it appealing to someone? There's an art to that as well.
Yeah. And I think that's it is how do you wrap that and present it?
Correct.
Because that's where I think I've seen some of my clients struggle. It's like how do you get the point across that, we're a fun place to work. Uh I mean, vacation benefits, 401k, all these different things that a lot of other people are offering. But I think people, like you said, they want to feel like they're working someplace where they're adding value, that they're valued themselves, the employees. They're contributing somehow to the greater good, whatever it happens to be. I think there's a lot of things that go into it now, and I mean, money definitely, but I've I've heard of had some of my clients to where they'll have a great interview with the person. The person says, "Man, this has been the best. I love this." They call him later that evening, and he's already accepted another job somewhere.
Yep.
It's like,
Whoever's first and offers the most money wins, Harlan. That's exactly what the point I was making,
wow.
right? So, I mean, what you could do. So there's a couple things, and I don't know if this was kind of the direction you wanted to go, but we do a thing called the 7 candidate drivers, and
Okay.
there's only 7 things you can negotiate with someone on your new job: title, salary. I always get confused here. So title, salary, benefits, 401k, incentive, PTO, and schedule,
Okay.
right? So there, we have a form called the 7 candidate driver comparison. So we put our company's information down one side, and every time we're interviewing someone, we kind of start filling in the other side. And it
Okay.
shows very clearly where you're misaligned. A lot of things a
Hmm.
small business will do is create a range that they think is a
Right.
good range or a good salary and say,
Right.
this is what we pay. The beautiful thing about being a small business owner is you can be agile, and everyone is motivated by something different. So
Right.
just to make this really easy, let's say I make $100,000 and I'm interviewing with you and you say, hey, we're going to offer you 110. But the
Okay.
company I work at pays my benefits for an employee only benefits, and yours are $500 a month. That $10,000 raise just became a $4,000 raise.
Hmm.
Now, is
Okay.
$4,000 worth it for me to move companies? The answer is probably not,
Yeah.
right? 10% is kind of the minimum where people go, okay, um, maybe that's worth it. Then you say, oh, you work a hybrid schedule, but I need you in the office 5 days a week. Oh, and you have 4 weeks PTO. Well, we start everyone at 1 week. What are the
Hmm.
odds of the person taking that job, even though in you perceive yourself as offering them a $10,000 raise, they
Right.
perceive it as I'm out of pocket to come and work for you.
Yeah.
My
Right.
standard of living will go down by coming to work with you. I'm at home less.
Yep.
I've only got a $4,000 raise, but by the time I park and pay gas and tolls, and I've lost 3 weeks of PTO.
Yep.
So that in itself, right? They're going to go, man, I'm losing 15,
Yeah.
20 grand a year to come and take this job. I'm going to top out at 90K where I'm currently
Yeah.
at 100 with all these benefits. So if we know what we have, and as a small business owner, there's a couple of things people still believe that you award PTO on tenure.
Hmm.
That's not how the market works. The market is you award PTO on experience. So if I've
Okay.
been 5 years out of place and I'm at 3 weeks PTO and I come to you, you should value my experience and say, well, people in our company at 5 years experience get 3 weeks. Yes, we'll honor the 3 weeks, right? Well, are you able to go back and say, hey, I can start you at 2 and after a year move you to 3 because this is how it works? they might
Yeah.
be okay with that, but it depends on all the other 7 factors, right? So
Yeah.
if you can
Yeah.
lay everything down and compare line by line when you make your offer, if your offer is in the minus to what they're
Mhm.
currently making, it's not a good offer and it's not compelling.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. There's just, like I said, you got to look at it from their perspective. Is this a net loss for me? Then why would I do this? Right.
They don't know you, they don't trust you. They might like you,
Mm.
but they don't trust you, right? And that's what this is. It's we're building trust and leaving a job that you mostly like and feel secure at to go to the great
Mhm.
unknown for
Right. Yeah.
$2,000, it's not enough to bridge that gap. And
Right.
unfortunately, money or something that translates the money is what you could do. You might be able to say, I can pay you the same, but I can give you an extra week PTO.
Mm.
And oh, you're in the office? I can give you 2 weeks. I can give you a hybrid schedule, 3 in the office, 2 out. And someone might say, done. That's all I wanted. An extra week of PTO and I get to work
Yeah.
from home. I'll move for a lateral move. But then now you're working into the plus, right? Now
Right.
you're offering things they don't have. If your offer is taking away things they have or reducing what they already have,
Right.
they're going to say, I'm where are the wins here? I got the 10 grand, that's great. But if I start, and they start breaking it
Mhm.
down. They're like, I'm coming out on the negative on this. It just doesn't make sense for me to join this company.
Yeah.
I hope
Wow.
I explained that well, but it's
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Yeah. Because you're right. If whatever you offer, if it doesn't compensate, oh, I don't have that much vacation and you're taking this away. It's like that's too much.
right.
So when you interview the people, you've got the needs, the requirements of your client.
Yeah.
You put together your paperwork. Now you're talking to these people. Do you try to figure out how closely they fit within here? And then
I
if
ask
there's
them.
a certain amount of wiggle room, do you present
Yeah.
them? And if
Yeah.
it's not, if they're too far off base, do you just say this isn't going to work?
Yeah. So, yeah, I ask them flat out. Once we get to the point where there's mutual interest, I'm thinking, man, this is a really good fit for my client. And they're thinking, this sounds really interesting. I'll say to them, okay, let's go through some finer points. Just, I don't want to waste your time. And I want to make sure we're talking apples to apples. And I just go down, you're gleaning information throughout the conversation.
Mhm.
But at one point, I'll get to it and say, so what's your current PTO?
Okay.
What's your 401k? Or what do they match? Do you have a 401k there? Yep. What's your match? Sometimes they know, sometimes they don't. I just
Hmm.
want to know if they have a match because generally, unless it's like in the margins, the 401k match is close enough that it's yeah, that's fine. Benefits, I'll want to, I'll ask them, what does your benefit plan look like? Um, Current salary,
Hmm.
some states you got to be careful. What are you making? The question I always ask is, in, you can figure it out, right? But I always
Yeah.
my standard question is, what do you need to make to have a move make sense? And they'll give you a number, and then through conversation, you can usually figure, especially once you get to incentive. And I'll ask them, "Are you in an incentive plan right now?" And they'll say,
Hmm.
"Yeah." And I'll say, "Okay, well, like we're in 2025, so I'll say in 2024, what did it pay out?" And they might throw out a number, or they might give me a percentage, and you can do the math, right? They're not going to give you everything, but you gotta.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not exact, but you're going to have a really good idea where you are. And at that point, you deliver some bad news if you have to. You're like, oh man, you're at 5 weeks. We're not going to be able to match five.
Hmm.
I could get you three, maybe four, and you'll be surprised how often people are like, yeah, I never use my vacation. 3 or 4 weeks would be fine.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes they're like, nope. Yeah, I have a guy now. He's like, hey,
Yeah.
I want to keep my PTO because I'm starting a family. We're planning on having kids here in the future, and I want to make sure I'm going to be able to take that. And I'm like, yeah, I get
Yeah.
it. Let me see what I can do for you here, right? But so it just becomes when you have it laid out, it becomes very obvious.
Hmm.
And the other cool thing it does is it doesn't mean you're out. It
Right.
means it shows you where your positioning might not be very strong or where you're weak. And then we talk about how can we overcome that. So a lot of times I'll talk with my business owner and say, our benefit plan is killing us here. They're going to be out of
Hmm.
pocket $500 a month on benefits. So that 10K raise just went to a four. So
Right.
why don't we do this? We'll give them the 110 and then we'll add a $500 a month stipend to them for their benefits to make sure we keep them whole. That way we can say, yes, you have a $10,000 raise. We understand we're weak. And if you renegotiate your benefit package and that number goes down, change the number. Or
Yeah.
say we'll write it in and say we'll do it for the first year or the first 2 years or whatever that
Yeah.
looks like. But because we're small businesses, we have that ability to be agile and flexible in terms of how we can be creative, right? Even if you said, look, I can't do anything about the benefits, but what if I gave you an extra week PTO? They might say,
Right.
that'd be great. I'd take that
Sure.
because I value the PTO more than the dollars. So but that's what you get when you talk with people. Everyone's not the same. Some
Sure.
people,
Yeah.
if you said, I'll let you work from home 2 days a week, they wouldn't care a lick about the money. Some people want it all. Some people might want one or two things, but it's having the conversation. And honestly, when you're having that conversation, you're building for rapport and trust because what's the message that potential employee is getting from you? Man, these guys are awesome. They're like
Yeah.
talking to me and asking me how we can make this work. I'm part of this decision.
Right.
It's incredible. It's so powerful. We hired a guy today, one of my clients, and he asked for a different title than we offered. So I called the owner. I'm like, look, he wants manager title. And he was like, yeah, I'm fine with that. But it's a funky role. So I was like,
Hmm.
what are we going to call it? He's like, I don't know. And I said, okay, let me text you some options. So I texted the candidate and said, yeah, we're good on the title change. We just don't know what title to give you. What do you think it should be called? And he texted me back two options. And I'm like, okay, we'll go with the second option. Perfect. Thank you. But you
Nice.
think that's goofy, but in his mind, he's like, wow, look at these guys. Like they're
Well,
actually
yeah.
including me in a decision that involves me.
Yeah. That's huge. And we always talked about, well, in our consulting days, we talked about, everybody has their currency, right? Some people want more money. Some people want a pat on the back. Some people want the PTO, whatever it happens to be. Everybody has their own currency. And so you can't just do a broad brush, you know,
Yeah.
blanket over everybody. You've got to have some flexibility and be able to talk to them. And yeah, I can see how powerful that is if you can say, hey, talk to me. What can we do to make this work here?
Yep.
That's awesome.
And in the old restaurant game, this is the secret, right? If you have a bad experience at my restaurant, and I used to do high-end fine dining stuff, and if something went wrong, I'm ready to comp the whole meal, right? Like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. This did not go well. Like, I'm buying the whole shot. And it could have been hundreds of dollars way back when, right? Before things got so expensive. But if I go to that table and say, and this is what we were trained to do, we learned, hey, I know we messed up today. I
Mhm.
want to make it right. What can I do to make it
Yeah.
right with you? They'll say, buy our glass of wine and give us a
Bottle of wine or
dessert, and that
yes.
would be great. And I'm
Yeah.
ready to write off $400 in total
Yep.
bill, and they want $50 in dessert and wine, right?
Yep.
And so that's why by asking, I can go in and
Yeah.
say, I'm going to offer them this. And that's why my clients are always like, I'll say, let me have okay, what's the offer? We got to write them an offer. I'm like, just wait. Let me call and have a conversation and I'll get back with you and tell you exactly what we need to write. Because when I get off
Mm.
the conversation with the candidate, I'll say, okay, so if I get an offer that includes everything we just talked about, you'll sign it. And they'll say, yep. And I'll go back to my owner and I'll say, here's the offer. And they'll say,
Nice.
perfect. They might, but sometimes they might get stuck in and say, well, we can't do that much PTO. And I'm like, but it's PT. It's
Right.
free. It's not free, but PTO is easy. Like
Yeah.
we shouldn't be getting hung up on PTO, right? And some people get so stuck in on it because, well, so and so's been here for 5 years and they only have a week. And I'm like, well, maybe so and so should have more time. Like maybe we need to look at that policy and make it modernize it because that could be the reason you're missing
Hmm.
out on the best people by
Sure.
just not revising. You might be strong everywhere else, but you could have a reputation in the industry for, man, you go there, you lose all your PTO, they give you a week, right? And if you
Yep.
just change that, maybe now you're a front runner and people are talking about, wow, this company's really treating their people great because
Yeah.
people in the industry talk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They
Yeah,
do. They know where the good companies are, the good interviews. Yeah,
100%.
they know
So
that.
these are the things we work with, right? Because
Okay.
owners get stuck in on certain things, and sometimes sometimes it's rational and sometimes it's irrational. But our job is to kind of rattle their cage a bit and say, well, why it seems like you're really passionate about this. Like, what is it? What's going on here? Well, I hired someone a while ago and I gave them 4 weeks, and then they took their 4 weeks vacation and they quit. I'm like, okay. So we had a bad experience, and that makes sense. But now
Yeah.
we're putting a process in place that's going to minimize the bad and maximize the opportunity to have it be good. So
Yep.
let's maybe try it again, right? Or whatever that is.
Sure.
So you never know what it is, but there's generally something there that has them. There just really is a hot button for them.
Yeah, absolutely. But then through your process, you are helping them expand. These are the bands. These are the areas where we have flexibility, and this
Yep.
is the area where we're kind of tight, right?
And
So you know this going into the interviews, right?
that's part of my intake with them. Part of our
Nice.
diligence is filling out that side of the form and saying, "Oh, okay, this is below market. This
Yeah.
could be a challenge. We're gonna need to overcome this, or we might need to overcome this. Are you open to doing this or that?"
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
And sometimes they're like, nope. I'm like, okay, you're making it really hard on yourself
Yeah.
for no reason.
Yeah.
You have a reason, but it you're not allowing yourself to be competitive by doing this. I always say you're creating a very small target, very small
Right.
bullseye to hit here, and
Yeah.
we want to have as big a bullseye as we possibly can.
Sure. And so you do the upfront, all the interviews with the person until you think you've got a candidate that is going to fit this structure. They come in to your clients and they have conversations, not the same ones you had, because that would be redundant and probably piss them off or something. What are they doing more of a cultural fit? Are they talking more about the company and what's going on in the future? Do you coach them on what they're talking about?
Yeah, of course. So I've done a lot of the diligence and tested them for skills and culture. Then we'll do a video interview with, I always put the decision maker as the first interview beside me.
Okay.
A lot of people put the decision maker at the end, but it's a waste of time, right? And so
Yeah.
the philosophy is if you put the decision maker at the end, people at the beginning of the interviewing process will let through as many people as possible to get that
Right.
decision maker to say yes to one of them.
Yeah.
When you put the decision maker first and they like the person and say, yes, let's continue the process, the message now to everyone else is, I like this person, you are free to hire them, right? And so
Nice.
that hiring manager, decision maker, will go through some more experience for them. Like they'll do a formal interview on video. Then when we bring them on site, we always want to do a facility tour, a walk and talk. Those are the best.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's always around whatever stakeholder is interviewing, and we carefully select who those people are. And
Hmm.
just a footnote, you only ever want your best people interviewing a candidate. You never want your worst or your middling people to interview a candidate because
No.
they will, if they feel threatened, they will sabotage the interview. And I've seen
Exactly.
it
I was going
happen.
to say, yeah, they feel threatened by this person coming in who has more skills than they do,
Yep.
better or more articulate or something. Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
And then the other side of it is unintentionally, if you include someone in the interview process to include them, but you're not ready to take their opinion, then they say, I don't like him. And you say, that's great. I'm going to hire him anyway. All you've done now is damage that relationship, right? So
Yes.
the
Yep.
rule of thumb I have is it's one of your best people, it's got to be one of your best people. And are you going to take their opinion? If they say no,
Mm.
are you going to have a conversation and understand why? Or if they say no, I don't care, it's my hire, I'll hire who I want, do not include them. There's no
Yeah.
value in including them. So then when we have the stakeholders talk to them, it's always around all I want you to talk about is how you will work together. So you'll
Nice.
say, in my role, I face this kind of challenge often. Have you experienced that? And what have you done when it's happened to you? How would we work together? I want all the stakeholders to understand how the person will work with them. And that's it really, right? And then we'll do a debrief, always include the same people. So when you do an interview process, one of our rule of thumb is you always want to have the same people in the same order, ask the same questions.
Yep.
A lot of people will have, hey, Johnny, interview this candidate. Then the next candidate comes in, hey, Susie, interview this candidate. Then they get together to debrief, but what are they debriefing about?
Right. They have nothing to talk about. They don't know, right?
They've asked completely
Yeah.
separate questions. They
Yep.
have completely different baselines and expectations. So we always want to make sure it's the same people. So when we go back, we can compare and contrast and talk about the same stuff.
Nice. Very cool. And then how many iterations does it take of you talking to these different candidates to know this is the right person, and I'm going to present this person to the client?
Right. So how many people do I need to talk to get to the right person?
No, how many iterations? How many times do you need to talk to this particular candidate before you decide I'm going to present this person?
So
Can you
I'll
do it in one sitting?
No, we'll do a 15-minute, kind of a 15 to 30-minute pre-screen. And that is really just meat and bones. Do you have what we need? And we have a scorecard we create in our package. It's called our avatar. And we have a scorecard. Like, do you check? And the minimum is 80% of the boxes. If you don't check 80% of the boxes, I'll say this has been great. Your experience is great. It's just not great for this job. I'd love to keep in touch, but we can't go forward with this one. If they're 80%, then that's a telephone call. Then I'll do an hour-long video with them where we just go kind of really in depth. It's kind of based on a top grading interview where we kind of go job by job, asking the same questions in the same order to make sure we're highlighting any patterns or anything. If they're job hopping or whatever, I want to understand what that looks like. But diving into their specific experience. If that goes well, only then will I give them to my client and say, I have someone I think you should talk to. If they agree, then I'll generally do a third kind of follow-up, whether it's a telephone call or a video. Just if I have any questions or something came up in talking to the owner or whatever, and just kind of preparing them for, hey, here's what to expect next. We'll do a 1-hour video with our owner or the decision maker. Then if that goes great, we bring them on site, and we're only going to bring someone on site one time. And we know they're taking a half day off work to come and meet with us, so we're going to use the half day, and it's 2 to 3 hours, and we have an agenda of how that's going to go. And then as soon as they walk out the door, we generally huddle and say, go, no go. And if it's a go, it's like, okay, I'll follow up with them tomorrow. I'll nail down exactly what they're looking for, make sure we're all still in line, and then we'll get them an offer.
Okay. So your client says yes. Do you go back to the candidate and say, what did you think?
Yeah.
Is this something you want to do?
Yeah, generally I'll walk them out the front door, and the last question I ask before they get in their car is, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your interest in the job? Okay. And they'll usually say something like an 8 or a 9, and I'll say, what's the missing 2? Or what's the missing 1? And usually they might have something, or they'll say, I don't know. It's just a gut feeling, but and 8's pretty good. I'll take an 8. And I'm like, okay, well, let me know if you figure it out, if we need to address anything for you, if you have any other questions or comments. And then, I'll follow up with them within the next 48 hours for sure, and say, hey, we really liked you. We're really excited about getting you on the team. You hear the language I'm using here?
Yep.
This is the candidate experience stuff, right?
Nice.
Man, we really enjoyed meeting with you, and we're really excited to get you on the team, and we're going to start to put together an offer for you. So I just kind of want to review the information we talked about when we first met to make sure everything still adds up. Sometimes it changes. Sometimes their salary expectation will change. Well, the job's a little bigger than you initially told me.
Right.
And that's okay. I'd rather have them do that with me than with the owner, because the owners can get a little more defensive around that stuff, right? So I'm a neutral third party. I don't care. I just want to make sure it's fair and equitable for both sides. Sometimes they'll price themselves out, and I'll go back to my owner and say, it's not going to work. They've changed their tune. They've upped their price. I told them that we can't get there. And every time my owner has said to me, thank you. All right. So what's next, right? Okay. Well, we're working on someone else to talk to, but that's it. It's again, just, making sure they feel like they're heard. They're a part of the process. We're bringing them in. We're putting our arms around them, making them a part of this whole thing, right? Do you have any questions for us? Is there anything you want to see? So it's always about just making them feel like they're already kind of working there and they're already part of it, so they see it.
Nice. Very cool. Love that whole process. Is there any, have you ever had clients say, I want to offer them a job right now. I don't want to wait till tomorrow. I want to
Uh,
make the offer right now. Or do you
I
always have kind of a cooling down
we got to
period?
have a cooling down period, yeah,
Okay.
just to make sure. Like I've
Yeah.
had them as they're walking out the door, them looking at me saying, like, yes, right, and that's great.
Yeah.
But let's just let them go home and marinate over it a bit and talk to their family about it, because that's the other side. The other thing we got to consider is they have a life, and so
Yeah.
we expect that let's get them an offer today, and um, it's got to be convenient. Um,
Yeah.
I have a quick story about convenience if you have time,
Sure.
Harlock.
Absolutely.
So this is why when we bring people in on site, we only bring them in for one visit on site. Because think of this. Someone applies for a job at your business and you get their resume and you think, "Oh, they're perfect. I got to talk to them." So you pick up the phone and call them. And they pick up the phone and you have a conversation and you say, "Hey, I got your resume here. Can you come in and meet with us tomorrow at 1 o'clock?" And they say, "Yep, I'll be there." So firstly, you've called them. They're probably at work. So they're talking to you while they're at work. That's risky enough and they're uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for them to get tomorrow afternoon off work, what do they have to do, Harlan?
They've got to go in and ask for it, right?
And are
Take
they
time
going to
off,
ask for it, or what are they probably going to
or
do?
call in sick, right?
They're going to lie. They're
Yeah.
going to have to make up a story and lie to their employer, say, "I have a doctor's appointment," or "I'm not feeling well." So that they're going to have to lie. And we want high integrity people, and we're asking them to lie, which is hard enough. And it's an acceptable lie, but it's going to happen.
Yep.
So if they get dressed up and go to work that day, what's the joke in the office?
Right. Oh, yeah. You got a big date or something? Yeah. You're
Or are
going
you
out for
going
an
to a job
interview?
interview?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So they might have to change in their car.
Mhm.
Then they have to find your place. They don't know where to park. When they find a parking spot, they don't know what door to go into. When they walk in, they don't know who to ask for. And we put them through an interview. Then we say, "Man, this has been great. Can you come back tomorrow and talk to my partner?" And you ask them to do it all again.
Right.
That's not considerate, right?
Mm-mm.
That is not the, and if someone's got a job, the common misconception is people think we can go slow. We don't need to hurry. They have a job. But the opposite is the truth. As soon as you become annoying to someone who has a job, they're like, "I already have a job. I don't need to do this." So as soon
Right.
as you say, "Can you come back again tomorrow?" and you've given them a meh experience, they're going to go, "Yeah, no, I can't."
No.
Right? You know who can come back tomorrow and jump through all your hoops? The
Yeah.
person who's unemployed and can't find a job and no one else will hire. They'll be there
Yep.
tomorrow and they'll be there the day after and they won't have a problem with it. So we have this mixed up view of how this all works, right? So,
Yeah.
we call them the 4 C's. And one of the C's is you have to be considerate and understand what's happening on the other side. So that's why when I present an offer to someone, I always say, take some time, go home, marinate, talk with your family, make sure this is the right thing for you guys. Put a little scratch pad beside you when you're reviewing it and write down any questions you have. I don't want molehills to turn into mountains, because
Yeah.
sometimes there's legalese in these contracts, or something might be worded and they or their spouse might be a little put off by some of the wording, right? I don't want this to turn into you're coming back to me saying, "I can't believe they said this," when it's just lawyer speak, and I can explain that away to you, right? So get a little scratch pad, keep your questions, and then let's get back on the phone tomorrow. I'll answer any questions you have. If you need any additional information, I'll get it for you, because I want to make sure you're making the right decision.
Nice. Good stuff. This is awesome. But you work in, where are you at? The Dallas, Houston area?
Houston, yeah, outside of
Houston
Houston.
area. All right. This is awesome. I wish there's more companies like yours.
I
Because I
don't.
think
I
this
don't
is
need
just
any more like mine.
well, that's true. You're cornering the market. That's awesome. Um, this has been awesome, Corey. Thank you so much. If people want to get in touch with you, how can they best do that? What's your website?
So the website is KeyHire, one word, KeyHire KeyHire.solutions, not .com, .solution. You can learn a bit about us there. And if you go to the testimonials page, you can actually, there's my calendar's right on that page. And if anyone wants to, we're a help first organization. So if someone wants to schedule time and pick my brain, I'm happy to do it. Happy to help out however we can. Always have time for small business owners, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Look up Corey Harlock. You'll see my ugly mug on there and just connect with me. And I'm happy to connect with you too.
Good deal. All right. I will have all those links down in the show notes. If somebody, I'm in Atlanta, if somebody in Atlanta needed help, can you help them?
I can try. I have traveled. For the right people, will travel if it makes sense to do so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I got no problem with Atlanta. It's a short plane ride. I used to have like four clients in Birmingham, Alabama. So I used to go to
Yeah.
Birmingham all the time.
There you go. Yeah, short drive over, no problem.
Yeah, in fact, Atlanta was one of the markets we would target sometimes for some of the kind of high school people. Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. All right. If you ever find yourself in Atlanta, look me up. We'll play guitar and drink beer and whatever. All right.
Love to. That'd be
All
amazing.
right. Sounds good. All right, man. Corey, this has been great. Thank you so much. Listeners, hope you guys were taking a lot of notes, a lot of good information here. I will have all of Corey's contact information in the show notes. Definitely reach out if you have questions, and share this episode with your family, friends, colleagues, those small business owners that are struggling to attract and hire and retain great employees. And stick around because there's always more coming. That's it for me. Coach Harlan saying so long for now.